Designer note subject 120. There's a new metal G-Shock Square in the horizon. This will be released on September 10th and will cost over $800. This will be a regular production run, but will likely be hard to find not just a few months, if not a few weeks after the release. Let's examine why it could be very desirable. And while we're at it, let's revisit how G-Shock managed to tap into a new collectible niche. Like, comment, and subscribe for content you'd like to see next. Follow us at Instagram at designatelieraruba for behind-the-scenes content. Email us at designatelieraruba@gmail.com. The official designation for this G-Shock model is the GMW-b5000PB-6. This is nicknamed Tokyo Twilight, as the inspiration for this colorway is based around the city's colorful scenery. This will feature a purple ion-plated bezel with a second tone that can be seen all over the watch. The display will also be accented with vibrant colors such as neon pink and sky blue to truly symbolize the Tokyo skyline. G-Shock has been skillfully improving their proprietary IP technology that's very hard to match compared to many aftermarket replicas readily available. This subline uses the 3459 chip that's an upscale connected G-Shock Square module. This module, however, seems to be not housed yet in the new carbon core structure, but it's likely going to come in the near future. This marks the first time that a two-tone, full IP-coated metal square will launch in the market. With a very pleasing complementary colorway, there is much anticipation already ahead of its release date. G-Shock has been masterfully testing out the market and quick to capitalize on successful model iterations. This began on 2018 when they released the first ever fully metal G-Shock Square. Priced at $500, this was quite pricey for a G-Shock Square. To make the purchase justifiable, G-Shock included a new module that's packed with features such as a new LED lighting and phone connectivity. At the same time, there's a gold version that's $100 more expensive, but also proved to be very enticing to many. For those who couldn't help making the upgrade, they're treated to a different bezel finish to make it reasonable to shell out that extra cash. This version is also a 35th year anniversary edition to further highlight its collectivity. With this much being offered, many bought both these models. Thus, a new obsession is born. G-Shock is not done, however. This month was actually planned to be a trio of metal squares, with the last version sporting the original colors of the GW-5000C back in 1983. This one would cost a whopping $1,200, which is more expensive than the other two combined. This was limited to 500 pieces and comes as a collaboration with the Yoshida and Company bag. This one easily pitches over 5 times its MSRP at the moment. The reception for these new G-Shock squares were overwhelmingly positive. Seeing that they may have created a new niche, G-Shock released an affordable version that had the same bezel and module but with a resin band. This was a $400 piece, which was enough to open the barrier of entry for a wider audience. A month later, G-Shock released another ultra-luxury version in collaboration with the fashion brand Color. This features a gold IP bezel and a black resin band. The unique feature here is the simpler display and gold keeper and buckle. Priced at an insane $7,000 at the time, it's remarkably more expensive even though its limited production of 700 pieces is more than the Yoshida model. Accessible, this is not. But G-Shock was quick to comfort the modest metal square fan by releasing a full black IP metal square in September 2018. This one somewhat resembles the Yoshida version but sports a negative display and darker frame color. At the same month, G-Shock released another gold IP metal square, but this one is cheaper. and brandishes a negative display with a surprisingly brushed bezel. Both models released this month cost just $550. This was a blockbuster year for G-Shock squares. But grab your favorite snack and hold on to your seats. G-Shock is about to bust out the grail of every G-Shock collector. This is the GMW-b5000PB Special. It's a full 18-karat solid gold G-Shock square. This was actually in development and a prototype existed since 2015, but in 2019, a publicly available version was released. This is very limited at 35 units worldwide, with just 10 allocated to Japan and notably only 2 were sent to the United States. This has the astronomical MSRP of $70,000, placing this G-Shock's price above many Rolexes, APs, and Pateks. With this model, G-Shock firmly cemented their place in autorology in many collectors' hearts, not only because of its high price tag, but because it's still an indestructible watch despite its golden suit. But G-Shock never forgot its mass market and released an all-black metal square, but with a resin band model that's just slightly more expensive than the cheapest iteration. This one is launched at the same time with the blue IP version that also sports a resin band and negative display. This is the first non-gold nor silver color for the metal square and definitely not the last. After launching a couple of mass production run models, they released a limited run of full metal square done in IP black. This one, however, G-Shock tested their new weathering technique that makes the piece look like it's been worn out like a vintage timepiece. If there was any doubt before that G-Shock is aware of the collector's market, a faux scratch $1,000 G-Shock should convince you otherwise. This version sports this coating all over the case and band while sporting a negative display for good measure. Up next was a November release with another upper $1,000 limited edition. G-Shock started to use another type of metal, titanium. This sports a full titanium bezel and band. G-Shock, however, mixed it up with this one by coating the bezel with DLC and used a sapphire display. All firsts for the model line. This aimed to replicate the original GW5000 colorway, and it successfully did so. The last update for the year came with another full titanium square. This one is a showcase of G-Shock's laser engraving technology and is applied also with a companion MTG model of camouflage gray design. These 5 new metal squares in the GMW line were produced while many of the models in 2018 were still in production. In 2020, G-Shock continued to experiment with their laser technology and introduced one of the most nostalgic versions yet, the Tron Metal Square. This full metal G-Shock sports a black IP coating, but it's adorned with this grid pattern. Mind you, while most cheaper alternatives to this model would use printed-on details, G-Shock actually used a laser that burns under the IP coating to expose the stainless steel metal underneath. This limited edition actually has a surprising technical manufacturing technique behind it. Up next is another full titanium square, but this one is done in vibrant blue iron plating and then laser engraved with the camo pattern. This one retails at $1,700 back in the day and is now highly collectible. Both these special pattern squares are limited runs and now are out of production. If there was a time to get them, it might have been a few months ago. Up next was a slightly more affordable model at $600, the Burgundy Metal Square. This one is done on a full IP color coating that has been in use in other metallized G-Shocks. This was first reported and seen even in titanium prototypes back in 2020, but the actual release date was pushed back in January 2021. With only 2 metal squares released in 2020, understandably so because of the limitations of the pandemic, G-Shock aims to bounce back this year with a number of new iterations. We typically see metal squares in April, but this one got released a month ahead, the rose gold version. This version was launched in conjunction with an AWM-500 rose gold model that many view as having a feminine appeal. This retails at $600 but is now already out of production as well. Next is the limited edition Trantixie model that was done in full titanium. This sold out at $1,700 and features a multicolored band that's a showcase of G-Shock's ability to manufacture. At first, it may seem that this is a cobbled up model with spare links taken from the plant's surplus bin, but at close examination, you can see that these are actually new hues of color and manufactured in titanium. And finally, we come to September in the future with a two-tone purple metal square. The Tokyo Twilight caps a solid run of metallized G-Shocks so far that's in a span of 4 years created a new collecting craze. There has been 17 GMW models and one more in just a few days to come. The eBay special doesn't count because that's actually not a GMW serial. But who doesn't want a good story? Many of these are still available, but a majority are already not being produced. Like with Seiko's SKX modding scene, these metal squares created a huge following on both the collector's market and amateur watch modders all around the world. Interest continues to remain strong with these funny, stout quartz watches. 18 reasons, in fact, to be interested in, and counting.